Welcome to the Web Hosting Cat Podcast, brought to you by webhostingcat.com. Here's your host, Michael James.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. On this edition of the show, we have as our special guest Will Miles, the Supervisor of Data Center Operations for InMotion Hosting. We'll find out all about what goes on behind the scenes with your web hosting, as well as learn about the improvements they've made and are planning for the future. We'll get started right after this.
Turning to technology now, if you're thinking about creating a new website, you might find out that getting hosting for your site is going to put more of a dent in your wallet. According to the hosting review site webhostingcat.com, prices for web hosting plans are now actually increasing throughout the industry. However, by doing some diligent research, you can still find quality web hosting that is affordable. With so many choices available to consumers, it's more important than ever to make sure the features included in a web hosting plan match your website's requirements. For more information, visit webhostingcat.com.
We're back now with our special guest. As I've written about on the website, I've been fortunate enough in the past to be able to get a first-hand look at InMotion Hosting's data center here in Los Angeles. The facilities are very impressive with a top-quality staff making sure everything runs smoothly. At the recent WordCamp conference in LA, I got a chance to sit and talk with InMotion's Data Center Operations Supervisor, Will Miles. He's a great guy that really knows his stuff, and I thought it'd be very informative for our audience to find out some of the things that they've been working on over there, as well as how InMotion Hosting's operations really work. All right, I'm joined today by Will Miles, the Data Center Operations Supervisor at InMotion Hosting. Will, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Well, thanks. No problem at all, Mike.
Let's start off with, I know InMotion Hosting has two data centers, one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. Do you spend most of your time here on the West Coast or at both places?
I spend the majority of my time here at the West Coast. I do travel back and forth between our East Coast and West Coast facilities, but we have our West Coast facilities a little larger in size, which is why I generally tend to stay there.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of the number of machines you've got there, on the last count, how many servers would you say are at each place?
Let's see here. On the West Coast, probably in the area of about 2,500 servers, 2,500. On the East Coast, probably in the area of about 1,200.
Mm-hmm. Are the majority of those dedicated servers or shared servers, or are they probably equal?
Depending on which data center. For the West Coast data center, the majority of them are dedicated servers, and then on the East Coast, majority of them are shared or VPS servers.
Now, I've been privileged to actually tour the InMotion Data Center on a couple of occasions. Can you tell us what are some of the recent additions and improvements that you guys have made over at the data center?
Sure. One of the most recent things that we've done is we recently upgraded all of our top-of-rack switches to support full fiber from our core switching network. We put 20 gigabits to all of our top-of-rack switches that's across fiber. That's easily expandable to 40 if we needed to expand it. Should a customer require something like that. Although that's one of the major improvements we've made recently. We've done other things like we have for free. We've introduced some light DDoS mitigation that will help keep a lot of minor security threats right out of our network altogether. So that's another thing that we have recently done. We've done that on both East and West Coast alike.
Now, can you take us through the support process at InMotion? For example, if I or somebody's on their computer and they log on to the chat support or they call up, I assume they go to first-line support. When would you guys get involved over at the data center? Sure.
So generally, if we were going to get involved at the data center, then there would have to be some sort of like a physical hardware or inability to access something. Generally, when you open like a support ticket through chat or email or phone or whatever it may be, you'll go to a tier 1, and if your issue is something that would get us involved, then you would just immediately be escalated to our systems team, and then we would go ahead and get involved as soon as possible to get your issue resolved.
And now you have some sort of server monitoring software, so you don't actually. When would you actually have to physically go out and check out a machine?
Sure. Yeah, we definitely have server monitoring software, and I would say probably 99% of the time we're aware aware of a server being down before the customer is. So generally, when something like that happens, we'll go out. If it's something that we can fix immediately, we'll fix it immediately. If it's something that we can kind of get a Band-Aid fix in place for, then we'll do a temporary fix and then let the customer know that we need to schedule some downtime to get it resolved. If you're contacting us and saying that there's an issue, obviously we immediately go and resolve it. Some types of issues that are common, one of the most common issues are a hard drive failure. I mean, hard drives, especially the older hard drives, they're spinning media, they fail, they do fail. So that's one of the most common failures that we encounter. And usually we're able to catch those because we have hard drive monitoring software as well. So when it starts to fail, we can let the customer know, and we'll help them get migrated to a new hard drive or a new server, so that way they don't experience any data loss, and their whole angle of it isn't too bad. So.
Now, you mentioned data hard drives. One of the cool things I remember that you showed me when I toured the data center was the hard drive eraser machine.
Yes.
The degausser. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that works?
Sure, yeah. So we have what's called a degausser to securely destroy hard drives when a customer is done on a dedicated server. So the way it works is do you remember the old CRT monitors?
Yes,
You can push the little reset button on it and you would see it shake that little bit. Well, that was degaussing it. What it does is it introduces a sudden magnetic pulse to it to kind of reset your monitor. Well, that's the same thing that a hard drive degausser does, except on a lot larger of a scale. So I don't remember the exact number of gauss that it puts into it, but basically it's kind of like taking a giant electromagnet and pulsing it about 1,000 times to completely destroy the hard drive. That way there's no data that's recoverable should a customer's hard drive fail or they're no longer on that machine. That way we don't have any contamination of data or any chance of a customer's data getting into somebody else's hands.
Awesome. So customers don't have to worry at all about any data getting
definitely
lost or anything.
No.
Great. We're talking with Will Miles, the Data Center Operations Supervisor at InMotion Hosting. Well, in terms of performance, I personally use I have a shared account at InMotion Hosting, and I'm thinking maybe of upgrading, but I'm not sure. In terms of performance, when would you suggest someone with a shared server consider upgrading to VPS or a dedicated server?
Sure, yeah. A lot of times you have to look at just basically your resource utilization. It's not really an issue with maybe slowing down or anything like that. Generally, if you're in a shared environment, if you're experiencing something slowing down, it's going to be the whole server, and it may not even be a result of something that you're doing yourself. And it's like that in any shared environment, whether you're on a shared server with us or anybody else for that matter. So generally, you won't see something like that. Usually, from a shared side, if you notice a time that it's the best time to do an upgrade, I guess you could say, to like a VPS or a dedicated server, would be in the time that you don't necessarily meet what the requirements for the shared plan that you're on, or if you're beginning to use too many resources. And a lot of times that your provider will inform you of that. They'll say, hey, you're starting to get a lot more traffic to your site. You may want to consider upgrading to a VPS to kind of keep that that traffic flowing well and not run into any issues like that.
How long does the process take if someone with an InMotion Hosting shared server account would like to upgrade to, say, VPS? Is there anything that they need to do on their side, and how long does the process actually take? Sure.
Generally, I mean, if you want to do it and you're initiating it yourself, generally all you have to do is just let us know. And we do it, it's all behind the scenes. You usually will see no downtime as a result of it. The only exception to that might be if you're on a shared IP address also. We'll have to put you on your own IP address when you go to a VPS. So you might see a little bit of a change there while your DNS propagates out and things like that. But for the most part, you won't see any downtime as a result from it, and we handle it all on the backside for you. There's no involvement on your side at all. The only time that we may have to get you involved is if something errored in the process of us trying to move you to the VPS. Okay. And we'll get with you to say, hey, we believe we've corrected this, but we want you to double check your site, make sure that nothing happened with this, make sure everything's still the way it needs to be before you go live on your new server.
Okay. I wanted to talk to you about data backup procedures. How do you handle data backup at the data center?
Sure. So we have in place for our shared and VPS customers, we have in place a disaster recovery data option. What that allows us to do is, in the event that we have some sort of a catastrophic issue with a server, we have all of your data backed up. The way that works is that we can basically bring an entire server back up. So say, for example, you're on VPS server X, and say that server, maybe the processor dies in it. So it's a major thing that there's nothing you can really do about it. You can't have redundant processes. So if something like that happens, what we can do is we can bring you up on another another VPS server, and it will just bring you as well as all the other customers that were on that server live immediately. So that's the form of backups that we have as a disaster recovery. And then on top of that, we also have the ability to you get your first 10 gigabytes of backup for free from us. And then you can get anything additional beyond that. You can also purchase from us, and we can help you get that set up. Where if you want to do, something like a cPanel backup to it, or if you want to just back up all your files to it, or however you want to do it, we can help you get that set up and in place.
We've been talking with Will Miles, the supervisor of Data Center Operations at InMotion Hosting. Will, last question for me. Will you guys be continuing to expand the data center, and what other additions are planned, say, for the rest of this year and going into next year?
Definitely, yeah. We are definitely going to be expanding. We're expanding every month. I mean, every single month we put in new racks to help support it. And I mean, if you come down and do a tour again, I think you'll be quite impressed.
Okay, yeah.
Because you were down there last year, I think was the last time you were down there. Yeah. No, we've added quite a few racks since then. We're constantly adding new things and new racks and things like that. And some of the newer products that we have, we just recently also put SSDs in a lot of our dedicated servers for free. I mean, it's an option that you can just choose. As you know, we already have it on Sheridan VPS. We've had it there for a while. Right. Some things that we have coming up real soon, we have created a website building software that we're actually debuting here at WordCamp LA. It's called BoldGrid, and you have the ability to sign up for it in beta here if you're interested in that, or by contacting us. But the idea is that it's a website software builder that works with WordPress, and it's very intuitive, very user-friendly, and it works well for the beginner user as well as developers alike.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm going to definitely check that out. That sounds great. All right. Listen, Will, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate all your input, and I can attest to this myself. These guys are professionals. It's top quality all the way at the Data Center at InMotion. They really do a great job. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and see you soon.
No problem, Mike.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And once again, a big shout out to Will Miles for spending some time with us there. That's going to do it for this edition of the podcast. For more information on InMotion Hosting and their data center operations, you can visit our website at webhostingcat.com. And until next time, this is Michael James wishing you all the best with your website endeavors. Thanks for listening, everyone, and take care.
You've been listening to the Web Hosting Cat podcast, sponsored by webhostingcat.com. The preceding program is copyrighted 2015 by TuxCat Media.